Hey, everybody. I just wanted to come on here and share with you some tips around active grieving, as this is a practice that I have been doing for a number of years really successfully, and coaching my clients on as well, because all of us were not taught properly how to grieve, and we were taught that grieving is really only appropriate for death. And so, if you're at a funeral, that is an appropriate time to weep and bawl and feel that kind of overwhelm of emotion. But in no other place is this really allowed or accepted. Perhaps in the framing of a breakup, but really only in that first initial acute phase of breakup. And then afterwards, you know, you're supposed to get over it. You're supposed to, be past all of this. So I feel that active grieving is a really necessary part of the human experience. And I think it's really crucial at this time as we're experiencing a huge amount of collective grief. We are, experiencing acutely at this moment, watching people lose their homes to climate catastrophe in LA. We have been watching a genocide unfold on our phones for 14 months, maybe even longer at this time. There are so many reasons. And I think that we know collective grief a little bit, but we're maybe not as tuned into it. And so we might think that we're just maybe having a couple of bad days, we're just feeling a little down. But if you think back to those moments where the feelings felt beyond your own experience, they felt bigger than just what you were going through, that lets you know that you were feeling kind of something more attuned to collective grief. So, what does active grieving mean? It means an active process of grieving, something that is very felt in the body. And that way, we are actually allowing for the grief to come up and out, right? We want the feelings and the emotions that are in the body to come up and out of the body. So that can be crying, screaming, wailing, bawling, right? Any of those physical expressions of grief. Those are all wonderful ways to express it. If you struggle to bring it up, use a prompt, right? A movie that makes you cry, that makes you feel the loss that you've experienced. Um, a song, right? We all have sad songs that we go to, right? That trigger those sensations. Anything that will prompt it, right? Looking at a picture of someone that you have lost, looking at a picture of someone who you miss, right? These things that make you grieve, these things that bring up the emotion, use a prompt, bring the emotion up and allow it to come out. Now, we want it to come out as much as possible. So we want to not impede the emotion from coming out. We're not trying to quiet it down after 5 minutes. We're trying to allow it to have its fullest expression, right? I know that this can be quite scary. I know that this can feel really hard to do because our fear around grief is that it's never ending, right? So not only are we told that it's only for death, but we also are told that it's never ending. It's a bottomless pit, and so once we get in there, we may never get back out again. And that's not true. No emotion is never ending. No emotion is endless. They are all temporary. This is temporary. It will always end. So allowing yourself to go in fully, just trust that it will end in its own time and just allow it to keep coming up as long as it needs to, right? So we're letting the snot flow. We're letting the sounds come out. We're falling to the floor. We're feeling the full weight of the grief. Okay. And once that has happened, once it inevitably comes to an end, as it always does, right? The tears start to fade, the snot starts to stop, and the heaving gets smaller and less. Now it's time to clean ourselves up and provide the kind of care that our body needs. So at this juncture, it's really important that you can listen to the body and listen to what it's asking for. This is not an activity of the mind where we're like, I would like to call a friend. I would like to eat chips because those are my favorite snack food. This is what the body's asking for. Does the body want a bath and to be scrubbed, to have your body scrubbed and be surrounded by warm water? Does your body want a nap and to be covered in blankets and pillows and feel really nice and warm and safe and secure? Does your body want to go for a walk and to feel connected with nature? What does the body want in order to feel safe and comfortable and cared for? And if you struggle with this, think about the way that you would want to be cared for by someone else and give that to yourself, right? Do you want connection? Do you want comfort? Do you want safety? Do you want nourishing foods? And when I say nourishing foods, I mean foods that are actually very nourishing for your body and feel really good and warm and safe and comfortable, not junk food, right? Not your favorite snacks. We want like the food that, is culturally, something that really provides for us and makes us feel good, or that, reminds us of home or better times, right? That kind of food. So we provide the aftercare. We make sure that our body feels really safe and warm and comfortable after we come out of that really deep grief experience. And then, perhaps for some of us, there will be lightness. There will be a little bit of joy. There might be laughter, giggliness, the penchant for dancing, moving, skipping. These are all things that are possible once you have moved through and brought up that grief, that old grief, that stored grief out of the body. There's a lightness because the grief sits so heavy on our chest. And when we can lessen that load, the joy in the heart comes out. So I encourage you to do this full practice. I encourage you to do it regularly. And I encourage you to let it flow for as long as it takes. Remember, you are not going to be stuck in a pit of grief. That's not how this works. You, you will always finish grieving. It doesn't last forever, right? And if you take care of yourself, there's a really good chance that you will feel even better than when you started. So this isn't just about doing some kind of hard work with no reward. There's the potential for very beautiful reward. As well, if you're struggling to think of something that you have lost or that you miss, you can always, unfortunately, grieve what you didn't have as well, right? If you did not have parents that were loving, you can grieve the loss of not having loving parents, right? You can grieve what you did not have growing up. You can grieve the fact that you have not known a loving relationship, right? That is also a possibility. So it doesn't just have to be who or what we've lost. It can be what we never had. That's also possible. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful. I encourage you to do this as often as you can or as often as you need. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. Take care.